Always wanted to do this. Let's just take something from the headlines and apply it to real life. It's the whole reason why I do this little live stream of ours I like to call Wicked Radio. And thanks for finding me, everybody. My name is Bill Adams, and I explained yesterday, God willing, and the creek don't rise. I'm on a plane right now, and you might have noticed the live sign is off. So I thought it's a good time to play catch up. Let's catch up with all of this stuff that's been going on in the news, and let's kind of apply it to real life. Because otherwise, what's the point, right? It's the whole reason to do this. Because anybody can talk about the news, and there's plenty of people with plenty of opinion. But what I wanted to do was talk about the headlines and apply it and get a real good understanding of what we can learn about it in real life. So, a little bit of background. So I got to do some traveling. And the schedule for the live stream is going to be a little bit tricky going here forward for the next probably about a week, because everything's cool, but my daughter's having some surgery. But it's going to be iffy and crazy, and obviously that takes priority. And like I said, everything's okay with that. But I thought it was a perfect time now that today happens to be kind of a slow news day, unless you want to talk about Canada going down the drain again. But that's a whole different issue. And now that I can pre-record something and get it off to you, I thought maybe, you know what? Let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and do it, and let's catch up. So what I wanted to do was clear out the mailbag. Over the last couple of months especially, people, you guys, have reached out to me in my DMs, the messages. And that could be anything. Most of them came from X, because I think it has the best direct message system. A lot from Facebook, some on YouTube, but mostly on X. But my point being, my direct messages are always open for this stuff, and I want to work this in a little bit more. Maybe it'll be one Q&A a day in the live stream. Maybe we'll just take a Q&A Saturday and clear everything out then. Questions about life beyond the headlines and everything. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. And I talked about this a little bit yesterday on the live stream on Wicked Radio. Why me? You know, you're asking the question, what perspective do you have to give about life? You're not an expert. True. But you said it right there, anonymous person. I have a different perspective. Not saying mine's any better or any worse than yours, but it's different. So maybe I can add something. Not to get too corny on you here, but I think if we can all kind of add our own perspectives, and we all have them, to what else is going on in other people's lives, it can help out a whole lot, because everybody has experience. They call it, I referenced this yesterday too, Scott Adams, the Dilbert guy, he calls it a talent stack. We all have them. Your individual unique experience and perspective and wisdom that you've gained throughout your life, everybody's got a unique one. As it pertains to me, I got a really unique one. A lot of you know me from radio days. It's 30 years of going through the headlines and discerning what news stories would be good for a particular audience at a certain time. You do that long enough, this is why I talk about the headlines all the time. You understand exactly what fake news is, what propaganda is, how the news cycle works, how they get it out to people, who they want to reach, what's true, what's not. Besides the fact that doing that for so long, the way I did it in my particular career, is getting out in the perspective. You deal with I have dealt with and had conversations with every kind of person you can possibly imagine. Anybody, name them. On the radio side of things, I have interviewed presidents. I have rock stars, just regular people, sports people, criminals, experts of all different kind. Gives you a unique perspective. Plus, just doing that, you get an idea of sales and marketing and all that good stuff that involves with that, corporate radio career. Besides that, being a parent myself, which many of you are, that's a whole different perspective, as well as I'm a business owner, have been for quite some time. And from another perspective, and this goes into the mindset stuff I talk about all the time. I do have a background, I don't talk about it a lot, in self-defense. My particular area was Krav Maga. That was my choice. And yes, I have a certificate that says I have a black belt, but that means nothing unless you apply it to real life. But all of this together, not saying, like I said, my perspective is any better or worse than yours, but it's different. And maybe I can add something to something that's going on in your life. So with that said, my direct messages are always open. We'll call it the mailbag, but you can ask me anything. Beyond the headlines, start talking about some life. All right? Let's get to it. And did I cherry pick these questions? Why, yes, I did. Because there were certain things I wanted to talk about anyway. Yes, I did. But you felt comfortable enough with me to reach out, and I really appreciate that. So let's get to it. So I'm ready to go. I got my Better Call Saul coffee cup ready, all loaded with caffeine. We'll take a few sips of that as through the entire thing as we go, and we'll kind of see how it goes here. I've always wanted to do this. All right. Question number one. Again, completely cherry-picked because these are the things I love talking about anyway. And, oh, by the way, I'm not going to use your names on this. I'm going to keep it completely anonymous unless you want me to. And if you don't mind me using your name, put that in the message. But these are direct, honest to God, from the direct messages. I call it the mailbag. Number one. Bill, you talk about fake news and propaganda a lot. Yes, I do. Haven't had any success keeping my kids away and showing them the truth. Any tips? Oh, near and dear to my heart. You know what I just said right there. My perspective. And you can't do 30 years of corporate broadcasting and be on the air basically every single day and going through, because I was always news, right? News and information and then news talk. You can't go through that much information for a particular audience and not get a clear understanding of how news works and how propaganda works. And I call it propaganda because it's exactly that. And it comes from both sides, guys. Let's be completely honest here. The news cycle is such as it is to reach as many people as possible. And they're trying to get it through in a certain way to a bunch of different people, right? And they want to get through to a message. If I didn't understand that and understand exactly, and also getting to know the news directors and understanding what they're all about. If after doing that for 3 decades and not understanding how that works, I would have been an idiot, right? But to your question, and thank you so much for the question, and keeping kids away from that and showing them the truth. Well, I will tell you what doesn't work. And a lot of this is just from me doing things that were a complete and total fail. I would come home and, again, after understanding and talking about it all day, understanding exactly what was fake and what the propaganda was and what was not real, and then I would hear my kids, just like you are with the question, talking about certain things in the news and said a certain way, which was pure propaganda. And you know exactly what they're getting it from. And more often than not, they would get it from first social media with Snapchat stuff, and then when TikTok developed from that. Now, you can imagine, and I can sense your frustration to hearing the question, being able to guide kids from that, because it's almost like you lose control, right? As a parent, you feel like you've lost control. It's like you try to teach them what's going on in the world and your perspective and things, and then you wonder whether they're getting it from school or friends. Social media is where most of this misinformation comes from with them, and I've lived it. I've experienced it directly. And you can imagine my frustration of in corporate broadcasting, talking about this stuff all day, and then hearing them spout the exact same thing that I just tried to downplay. Here's what didn't work. Explaining it exactly the way I just did to you. Because if I explained it to like a 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old kid, even in their 20s, exactly like we just said it as adults, tune out. Exactly. And maybe I haven't tuned you out right now. I don't know. But that doesn't work. You can't explain to them, and you can't say everything that they've heard is wrong. Doesn't work. They'll shut down. Then we'll listen to you. Here's what I found that works. Questions. Just question everything. Keep calm. Like you hear them spouting off stuff and you're like, you can hear it coming. You can hear the mind virus stuff coming. Just question. Like, well, who said that? What are the sources there? Are you sure? Is that really what they meant? And pepper them with questions to get them to think. And they'll turn you off after a while, but they'll start to question these things themselves. I've found that's the most effective way to deal with all of this information, which still happens as they try to get through to kids. Because I will tell you, I especially realize this with TikTok. If you were to design a propaganda mind control weapon, honest to God, that's how it's been described, you would build it exactly like TikTok. It's unbelievable how effective and how good that thing is. They can control anything you want. But I'll say this, and my younger daughter taught me this about TikTok. They said, Dad, but the algorithm's completely different. The stuff you're talking about, we don't see that. Like we're into pop stars and fashion and dance and music, different things. We get most of that, but not all of it. And I will tell you this, and thank you so much for the question again. I will tell you this, through using those questions, over years, it took me this. I joke with my friends about this. I've got my kids about 80% out of the woke mind virus. About like 80, just by asking questions, because now they're critical thinkers themselves, mostly on most things, where they ask these questions themselves. So preaching to them about things, telling them they're wrong, that what they're hearing is wrong, doesn't work. Getting them to ask questions themselves, that's what works. That's what I found anyway. So good luck. That's a great question, by the way. That's why, and you can tell it's so near and dear to my heart. That's why I led off with that one. Second question for the mailbag, as we're here on Q&A catch up. Why do you call it Wicked Radio? We used to cover that when I first started doing the live stream. I talked about this. Remember, we were trying to figure out a name, and I settled on Wicked for the easiest reason of all. So ever since I was in college, being from Boston, my nickname was Wicked Bill Adams. So when it was time to find social media handles on anything, X, YouTube, Facebook stuff, anything, I would just sign up because Bill Adams is such a common name. I would always use Wicked Bill Adams, the Wicked stuff, right? And Wicked Radio seemed to apply because for the live stream version of what we do, I just figured it was like, it kind of goes along and it just kind of makes sense. It's like Wicked Radio, and I'm so used to it now. And more like an adjective and more like a regional kind of thing. I had somebody say, speaking of the mailbag, I had somebody write to me once. They said, Wicked Radio, boy, you just must be evil. And it hit me, and I said, wow, you know what? Most of the country might see that as a bad thing. It's just regional to me. I see it as an adjective, like wicked. It's to the extreme. It's like, that's wicked. Wow, wicked. Anyway, that's the reason why. There's not rocket science to it. But now, ever since I got that mailbag question, speaking of that direct message, I'm like, I hope people don't think it's evil. I don't mean it that way. It just means like edgy, cutting edge, as much as I can be anyway. All right, next question. And thanks so much for being here again. I appreciate it. I remember you did an interview with a guy once about how to start an exercise program. Can't remember who it was. Neither can I. But can you highlight what works? I do remember that. I remember what you were talking about, and I found this too. Again, this whole thing is just my perspective. It's not any better than yours, not any worse than yours, but it's a perspective. What's worked for me my entire life, just to get into an exercise program, just to get moving, because movement is life. It truly is. If there's anything I've learned in my life, I'm in my mid-50s now, for God's sakes, it's that movement is life. And me, personality-wise, and you may be different, I have to do something that's fun for me. That's like, I can't get to start an exercise. Like, I hate running. I hate jogging. I hate it. It's not fun for me. So I tend to put it off unless I have to, unless it's part of like I said there, like part of a Krav Maga test or something, you know what I mean? Where I had to do a lot of running. That's not my thing. But it may be your thing, and you may love running. Maybe it was years ago where you loved to run and get going with that, and you find it fun. Good for you. Do what's fun. That's the entire thing. But just do something. I can't express enough. We talked about this before, actually. This came up on one of the social surveys. I can't tell you how good for you. I can't tell you enough how good for you walking is. Walking's incredible. Just walk. Walk a little bit. Walk. It doesn't even have to be a lot. But if you do it consistently every single day, and I think that's what the guest, I can't remember his name either, the guest I talked about quite some time ago, he said the exact same thing. If you start just a little bit, it's not about the intensity of it yet. It's just about getting going with something. That was the main point he talked about. And again, I guess this goes back to a parenting thing. If you're trying to get a family exercise program going, you got to make it fun, or you're just going to turn people off. So that's my takeaway anyway. And if you like it more, just increase. That's all. That's what I've found. Again, I'm no expert. I just have a different perspective. All right, next question. What are we here? Just moved to a new. I love that. This was actually from like a month ago, and I dug it up because this is so important to me. Just moved to a new area. It doesn't have the best school zone. Isn't that common these days? Worried about my elementary age school son and bullies. Maybe just being paranoid. Is there any way to reach out to the school? Would that even be effective? Don't do that. No, don't do that, because you're going to label your kid as like some sort of a fragile kid at first. Good God, don't do that. Please don't reach out to the school at first. But you can find out exactly what a new area is like. We've all gone to that, right? And if you're a parent or you're a young person yourself, moving to a new area can be so traumatic. Good God. I remember I was in the suburbs when I was a kid and we moved, and I'm still traumatized by that. I still have PTSD from that. But can you imagine going to an area for whatever reason, and it happens to be a really tough area, and you're worried about your kid, and maybe I don't know enough from the mailbag question, but maybe that's somebody that like has been picked on before. I don't know. I have no idea. So you can get a sense for where the danger zones are, and you can teach them the basic things about, safety and keeping your head up. But the reason why I cherry-picked this question for the mailbag as well is because I told you there, I don't talk about this a lot, but a big part of my life is self-defense training. And I happen to choose, because I started as an adult, but I'm like 15 years into it now. I happen to choose Krav Maga, which is a fighting fitness program. And I still train to this day. It works for me. That's why I chose it, because for me, it was the most real-life applicable system that you can train in. It's just great. I like it because it puts you in a situation. Every technique you learn in Krav Maga, and most self-defense systems are like this. They put you in the worst possible position that you're in, and you learn how to turn that into a position of power. That's what I like. That's why I talk about mindset stuff all the time, is because that's really what you need to do. Life comes at us with all kinds of shit every single day. It's all about, isn't it, turning that around and turning it into a positive and turning the losses into wins. And in her perspective, well, I don't know. You know what? I don't know whether that's a mom or a dad. I'm not too sure. Can't really tell from the mailbag. But from this particular parent situation, I can't recommend enough, if just for self-confidence, getting any kid, every kid you have, into some sort of self-defense training. Anything, can be anything. BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is great for kids, or a karate program, Taekwondo. There's Krav for kids. There's everything. They even have like little MMA fight clubs. It might be too extreme for you, but still it's great. Some sort of self-defense program for a kid. The very first thing is, hopefully it doesn't come to that, but there are fight skills and self-defense skills. But it's the confidence that they teach and what they learn throughout that. The first thing they ever tell you, and the first thing I ever learned, and even in Krav Maga, was bad guys don't have an alternate plan. They have an alternate victim. In other words, they're not smart enough to rethink something if they're going to do bad things. They just look for, if you look like you could put up a fight, they're not going to mess with you. They'll go to the next one. That's why you see so many people who are crime victims. Not all of them, and not to blame the victim, but so many crime victims have their head down, they're not paying attention, and they look weak instead of projecting a position of power. The confidence in a kid, and if it ever came down to it, the ability to defend him or herself is so key. That's what in my perspective, that's what I would recommend to you. Not only that, there's another reason why I cherry-picked this question. I have believed for years that in the school system, public, private, whatever it is, charter school, anything, let's get rid of gym class. Let's replace that with what's applicable now. You want to stop bullying in schools? You want to stop that? Make it a required self-defense program. Give these kids mutually assured destruction, and you got to stop bullying in its tracks. That's exactly what's going to happen. I can't recommend it enough. Not only the exercise, we were talking about exercise programs before, but also just the confidence and the ability to know you can defend yourself in most situations. It's an unbelievable change. It's like incredible. So for this person, God love you, and I hope everything, and I know this is like a month old in the mailbag question. We're just catching up today, but I hope everything worked out, and I can't recommend enough, getting that kid into some sort of a self-defense program. If for nothing else, just the confidence it develops. So good luck with that. Next question for the mailbag, and this is just a Q&A catch-up if you're just joining us too. Things in the mailbag question, I pre-record it here just to get out, because I hopefully am on a flight right now, so just catching up in the mailbag. You guys were comfortable enough with me to reach out here, so good day to catch up. It's a slow news day too. Hey, Bill, love the pod. Thank you so much. I'm surrounded by... not using that word. We got to cut that out because of the second half of the word. Lib blanks. You know what I'm talking about. This is this person's perspective, not mine. I don't use the word. But anyway, I'm surrounded by those people at work, including my boss. What do I say to them? You know what you say to them? Nothing. And I would have told you something different pre-election, but now you don't have to say anything. First thing I said, after when we were doing the live stream and talking about Trump 2.0, the second term, was if you were a Trump supporter and if you had lived through what we lived through the previous 4 years for this, and now this happened, this is my perspective on this. And again, mine, not right, not wrong. It's just different from yours. Here's mine. You don't have to say anything, which is ironic for a guy who gets on here and says something every single day. A big mouth, but it's true. In a personal situation, dinner with friends and family and people at work and all this stuff, what do you have to say? It's kind of like that sports analogy. You know what? Somebody's talking trash, but they're losing. You just scoreboard. What do I have to say to you? I don't have to say anything. If you did choose to say something, the calm person wins. He who stays calm wins. Don't get hysterical. Don't, get argumentative, especially in a work situation. If you're surrounded by them where you think you're going to be in trouble for offering up your opinion, that hits close to home to me too as well. You don't have to really say anything, but if you do, keep it calm, keep it simple. And again, just like we were talking about with kids, ask questions. Really? Oh, well, why do you feel that? Okay, all right. Well, where did you hear that? Where did you hear that particular story? Is it? Oh, okay. Right. Just ask questions. That's how you get around it. But don't get mad. I know that I wrap up the live stream every single day by saying don't take any crap from anybody. Doesn't mean starting fights. That just means you don't have to take crap from anybody. That's all that means. All right. Next question. Catching up in the mailbag. That's all we're doing today. What was the real reason you... Yeah, that's right. I wasn't going to do this, but I did. What was the real reason you left radio and what actually happened? So this is obviously somebody local that remembers me from radio days. Wasn't my fault. And it wasn't left radio. I was fired. That's what happened there. I was let go, invited to leave, and nothing bad whatsoever. But I can't. August. What was the date? August 21st, 2025. This coming August 21st. I'll tell you exactly what happened because I'm not getting paid from them anymore. But that's about it. But right now, yeah, I'm going to stay away from that one. But the answer is no big deal. It wasn't really anything. It was just common business practice. That's all that was. Last one, we have time for because I have to get on a plane. Love the podcast. Thank you so much. My question is, when and where can we get Wicked Radio merchandise? Thank you, Josh. You're too kind. Oh, I used your name. I'm sorry. I said I wasn't going to do that. We are far away from that. We have to build up an audience before anything like that would happen. And even if that happened, I don't think I would be in a position to sell any merch. But, who knows? Personal idea of mine coming down the road and really just extending it out of what we do every single day, taking the headlines and taking the lessons we learn from that and applying it to your life. Hopefully a book someday with Wicked Wisdom. Well, we'll see. Who the heck knows? All right, well, that said, that's it. Schedule coming up. The reason why we're doing it like this today is because it's going to be kind of crazy for me personally going forward for the next week or so because, like I said, everything's fine, but my daughter has some surgery. We got to fly to New York. We'll be up there for that for a little while. Schedule is going to be iffy. I'll be on with you, talking to you guys as much as I possibly can throughout that. But other than that, thanks for finding me as always. A little bit different. You know what? I love this though, and it was a good time. I've been meaning to do it for a while to catch up on the mailbag. You guys writing in questions about anything, life in general, whatever perspective, big or small, right or wrong, that I can add to it. Maybe I can help out. Who the heck knows? I think we can all help out each other. But we'll do this at maybe one question a day if there's enough during the live stream, or we'll just do a Q&A catch-up on Saturday. Who the heck knows? But that's the main goal, is to make it more interactive. And like I said, I won't use your name except for Josh. Sorry about that, Josh. I kind of outed you on that one. Unless you want me to, I'll keep it completely anonymous, but whatever. We'll see how it goes from there. A lot to catch up on the next time we talk, which I'm sure will be more news related and what the heck's going on. Hopefully it's good news. Who knows? With all that said, yes, I'm still gonna say this. Don't take any crap from anybody, but have a wicked awesome day. This was fun. I like it. Talk to you soon.